Our next speaker, Senator O'Donnell, Niall O'Donnell.
I'll ask Harley. Leader, on the 5th of February 1992, members of a notorious UDA gang entered the Sean Graham's bookies on the Lower Ormeau Road and murdered 5 people. Several more were injured, and untold devastation, pain and loss was brought to this proud, tight-knit and small inner-city community. Last Friday, on the 29th anniversary of the massacre, as they do every year, families and survivors gathered, this time in small, socially distanced numbers, to lay flowers and say a rosary at the spot where the attack took place. Their dignified service was violated when PSNI officers intruded on the peaceful scene. Mark Sykes, a man shot 7 times in the bookies attack, and whose 18-year-old brother-in-law, Peter McGee, was murdered, was handcuffed and arrested while holding on to the flowers he had intended to lay in memory of his family, friends and neighbours. The nationalist and Republican people of the North did not sign up to the kind of policing we witnessed last week. Sinn Féin did not and does not support this aggressive and offensive form of policing. These tactics have no place in policing anywhere. Niall Murphy, the solicitor acting for the families, said that the families have been denied access to justice and their right to truth recovery. He called for the immediate publication of the Police Ombudsman's investigation into the massacre, which deals with the collusion between the British intelligence agencies, the RUC, the Loyalist killers and the weaponry brought in from South Africa by a British agent, which was used in the attack. As we know, these families and survivors haven't just been victims of the massacre itself in 1992, but they have endured continued denials of truth and justice, cover-up, and even the horrific situation where one of the weapons used in the massacre was found on display in Britain's Imperial War Museum, when the police had told families and survivors that the weapon had in fact been disposed of. The appalling conduct by the police and the continued denial of justice for the families is a reminder to the nationalist people that all too often human rights are secondary to the operational needs of the PSNI. And this culture of double standard is all the more obvious and telling when set against the recent tactics of the PSNI when dealing with Unionist and Loyalist paramilitaries. A few weeks ago, the PSNI escorted crowds of Loyalist paramilitary thugs through the streets of East Belfast, close to where I live, as they stamped their authority on a community already intimidated by drug dealers seeking to inflict even more intimidation and threat. Families had to flee their homes and seek refuge in a nearby community centre. It's reported that the families are still in that community centre. On that occasion, there was no challenge from the PSNI, no attempt to stop them, no arrest or handcuffs produced, no taking of names, and no one put in the back of police cars, no mention of COVID rules. The contrast will not surprise anyone that I represent. The PSNI Chief Constable's statement was inadequate, it doesn't go far enough, and there is a deep crisis of confidence amongst the nationalist people of the North with regards to how the police are operating, and I have no doubt that that will be raised directly with him when he meets with Sinn Féin leaders later today. I'm deeply disappointed that the Irish Government, in public at least, have had absolutely nothing to say about last Friday's incident. The Taoiseach needs to urgently and directly involve himself and stay involved in issues of such fundamental importance. He needs to meet those attacked last Friday. He needs to meet the Chief Constable of the PSNI, and above all else, he needs to stand with the Ormeau Road families in calling for the publication of the Ombudsman's report into the massacre that took place in the Sean Graham's boogies 29 years ago. I have just a few lines left, Lascahirlock, and I thank you for your indulgence. Leaders, you know we were promised a new, accountable and just and respectful police service. We are determined to have one. Many people are justifiably of the view that the PSNI is not that service yet, but nationalists and Republicans are determined that it will be.
Thank you.